Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of This Is Your Captain Speaking. Super happy to have somebody on today that I've been keeping an eye on for a little bit of time. He's also based in Austria, same as myself, and also the same as Marmine. This is John Brady, not a traditional Austrian name, I would say, John, but
that's right.
So John's got a background in a number of different areas of marketing, but in particular a couple of different verticals that sprung to mind. So John was he was the head of marketing over GM there for a while. So also over Falkensteiner, which is a hospitality group, hotels, and also more recent a part of a retailer known as Gurkerl, which is an online, a retailer that delivers to your home basically without any stores, right? There are no stores. Gurkerl don't have any stores right now, right?
It is merely a warehouse, and we deliver directly to people's homes. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Well, John, really glad to have you on, mate. And is there anything I missed from any of the above there? I went super quick through that, but
yeah, no. Thanks first of all for the invitation. It's really great to be here and to talk to you about all things marketing, as you put it. In terms of things being missed, I guess you could add another episode of my career where I got into my own business, started my own agency. Started advising startups basically, and also there was also about a year I was working with a startup in consumer electronics, which was a bit back, a couple of years back, but still some valuable experiences came out of that, I would say.
Tell me a little bit about your agency. So first of all, what's it called? And second of all, what do you guys do?
Yeah, so my agency is called Creative Crow. And essentially what we do is we advise startups with their marketing needs. Because I worked in a startup, like I mentioned, I saw that there is a big gap between the need of proper marketing advice for startups and what's actually on the market. So you have agencies, and typically grassroots startups are not able to afford their own marketing people from the first day on, and then they tend to go to agencies, but then the agencies, they treat them like any other big corporation. And I experienced that firsthand, and I just wanted to change that. So I founded my own startup, kind of dedicated to helping startups without them having to break the bank, but also to kind of cater to their specific needs in their early stage of business.
Sure. It makes sense. I mean, I fully get it on that agency piece, by the way, because if you're a startup and you're going to an agency that's a good agency, right? This is a difference. There's a lot of bad agencies out there that will give you cheap. Cheap is normally more expensive, is something that I say, right? If you go cheap, exactly, are you really actually getting anything out of it? And the ones that you can then, that are good, are typically out of your price range. But if they manage to have a package within your price range, they're not going to treat you as well as they're treating some of their higher paying clients. So you come into this sort of limbo situation, right? I agree with that. So you're basically placing yourself within those organizations almost as a head of marketing, sort of.
Yeah, so it's kind of taking on that role in the early stages, and then once I feel like they're settled and they actually understand the marketing strategy that they have to follow to grow sustainably, then I kind of pull out of the business.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back in terms of some of the stuff that you've been doing up until lately. So where I first came across you and the work that you've been doing was with Gurkerl, and you also won an award recently for the work that you did there. So congratulations. Well done.
Thank you very much.
It was really great. And honestly, let's talk about Gurkerl for a few minutes, because I'm super interested in picking your brain from one marketer to the next in terms of how much were marketing involved, and how much do they have to get involved when things really started to grow, right? So the thing about for people that are listening that are not based in Austria, so Gurkerl right now is still just Austria, correct?
Yeah, and it's going to stay that way. Yeah.
It's going to stay that way. Okay, got it. So Gurkerl, for people that are English speaking, contingent here, Gurkerl translates as cucumber, but and with a bit of an Austrian slang on it. But the background on it is it's a home delivery service for shopping, and it also, from a consumer perspective, me being the consumer, offers a huge amount of different items that you could probably not get in normal supermarkets here in Austria as well. So the larger stores such as Billa or Merkur or Billa Plus as it is now, the Billa Plus, which was a larger convenience store, so like your Tesco's of the world, would offer more items that you would be able to get in their smaller stores, in the smaller Billa stores. But I have the feeling as a consumer, purely just by having the Gurkerl app and being a loyal customer, that the range of products that Gurkerl has to offer is as broad, if not broader, than Merkur. Would that be correct as well?
It's about the same, I would say. So
Okay.
it's about 13,000 SKUs that are offered, and in a typical grocery store like a Billa, which is something that you find on the street anywhere, it's about 8,000. So it's definitely more, but it's on par with Merkur or Billa Plus.
Got it. Okay. And then just talking about like the one thing that, so having moved to Austria myself as a foreigner, having come from a country which is quite focused on customer experience because it's been following the American model. So I'm Irish, okay? And Ireland is very, very influenced by America, like massively influenced. And that then comes into how the customer experience is. So when you go into a store in Ireland, somebody will be there, they would say hello and be friendly. And there's a certain level of experience that's expected when you go into a store. Yeah. Now, I moved here 15 years ago almost, and I would be shocked sometimes at some of the levels of customer experience I would get in some of the regular stores here in Vienna or in Austria, right? Outside of Vienna, it's a little bit better, but let's say Austria as a whole, customer service and experience would not be put as like that's our North Star, right?
Yeah.
For me, personally, one of the things that shocked me from when Gurkerl started was the key, like the eye for detail on every level of the customer experience. Simple things that I've observed as a marketer, watching it happening. All of the drivers are in uniform. All of the drivers are super friendly. I've never met a Gurkerl driver that is not friendly. They always say thank you for the tip. It's almost like it's scripted almost. That say, this is how I go from A to B to C. And that's how the experience needs to be every single time, right? So my question to you is, how much is like not scripted, but like on purpose, versus how much is coming from culture, and how did you and the marketing team play a role in all of that?
Okay, so when it comes to the customer experience, and maybe I'll have to go a little bit back to answer this question, because you mentioned Gurkerl is only in Austria. That's true, but it actually comes from the Rolex group, which is a bigger group in Europe, and Rolex is actually the biggest online retailer in Czech Republic, and this is also where the headquarters is. So it's the mother company, you could say, for Gurkerl. And a lot of the learnings that were made in Czech Republic were taken then into different countries where Rolex expanded, and Gurkerl is one of them. So this is one of the learnings that makes Gurkerl so successful, is by keeping the customer service standards so high and making every customer happy. And this has always been the key element, and this is the way that the couriers, for example, get also trained, that they really have to stick to this friendliness. For example, they really have to put the customer's needs at the very top. The customer service center, if you ever call there, it's the same thing. So there is never an issue they can't solve, because basically the company is willing to always make the customer happy. Even if it's not Gurkerl's fault, the customer is always right. And this is exactly right, where you say in the UK, in Ireland, and in the US, especially, the customer service is a completely different experience than it is here. But this is the reason why word of mouth then is really positive for Gurkerl. And this is where marketing definitely can benefit from the word of mouth, and also the service and the product itself. And of course, something like this doesn't just scale because of the good experience and the good product. it's definitely very important that marketing does its job in scaling the business by really driving enough new customers to the business and also keeping them there. And so I would say in this business, in the online grocery delivery service business, operations and marketing are the key roles. Operations, because if you don't have enough capacity, or if there's quality issues or whatever, then you can do all the marketing you want, but it's never gonna work because you're not going to be able to scale. But on the other hand, if operations does a good job and marketing doesn't do a good job, then you have all those extra capacities, and the business is just not coming in because there's not enough customers. And the way I experienced it and why it was so intense is because we had a 3-hour delivery time. So you weren't able to plan a day like Amazon can plan a day beforehand, for example. And we didn't know how many orders are we going to get because people tended to order very short notice. And then you would have to forecast pretty accurately what's going to happen in tomorrow, what's going to happen in a week, what's going to happen in a month, and then also recruit, enough people to scale the business, basically. And this was always the biggest challenge that we had. But to answer your first question about how did we quadruple the business in 5 months last year when I was there, it was definitely a big marketing push and also a lot of spend in marketing that went into this.
Yeah, sure. I get that. I guess, I mean, you guys have managed to, at least in my eyes, right, revolutionize the way that people shop. Like I can only comment for my household, and I've got a household, I've got a family, right? We're busy people. We're doing the school run. We've got lots going on, right? So to get to the supermarket's a pain, right? But I would say out of our spend on groceries on a monthly basis, at least 80% of that nowadays goes to Gurkerl. And we are probably not unique, right? I'm sure we're not.
Definitely not. But it's a convenience thing, and I mean, there are other services out there that offer the same service, but they don't do it at a high level where you get in exact delivery window and you don't have to wait around for 3 hours at home. But you get an exact delivery window at Gurkerl where you know exactly, okay, in these 60 minutes, I'm going to get my deliveries. And this is something that others have tried to copy, I would say. But if you don't build your business already with the details and all the ideas in place, it's always just going to be playing catch up. And there's the big advantage for Rolik and Gurkerl in this case, that we were definitely able to benefit from. And to be honest, I'm not with Gurkerl anymore, but I still shop there regularly. And I probably spend like 90% of my shopping expenses there, just because it's so convenient and you get everything that you need, basically. Yeah.
I think so the convenience factor is one thing, but there's also an additional, it's probably too far to go to say an emotional factor with it, but I'm happy to give my money to Gurkerl, because I think the entire experience is just better. Like, yes, the convenience is good, right? To be able to sit on the phone and go through but the app itself, let's talk about that for just a moment. The app itself is super easy to use. The UX is great. The UI is great. It's everything about it just makes it simple and it takes the pain out of it. Whereas the other vendors on the market, it was almost more difficult to shop online than it was to go to the supermarket. That's my experience, right? But I like, let's talk a little bit about like the pandemic obviously helped quite a bit as well, right? With people shopping from home, right? That 5-month window you're talking about, 4x in the business in 5 months, that was right in the middle of the pandemic, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually towards the end of the pandemic, I would say. So it was last year between August and December. But yeah, sure. I mean, pandemic was still a topic. It's not like this year where you can see that it's almost, nobody talks about it anymore, or nobody wants to hear about it anymore. So I'm sure that it gave it a boost, but a lot of it was also in 2020, the biggest boost came. And in 2020, I think gurkerl started in 2020 in December, and I wasn't part of that business yet. So I can't really say what it really did to the business to give it that boost in the beginning. Yeah.
Got it. So let's talk a bit about your challenges as a marketer and going through that growth. I've been through hyper growth tech startups myself.
Okay.
And it's wild, right? It's just crazy. Yeah. And there's a long list of things that are just difficult, and you're trying to tick a lot of boxes, and while spinning the plates, while doing the things, while executing all of these different things, right? So let's talk a little bit about the struggles or the challenges that you had as a marketing leader through that massive phase of growth.
I would say that the biggest challenge that I was facing was the team in the beginning. So because I came in like 6 months after they already started the business, basically, so the marketing team was already there, and it wasn't a team that I built. It wasn't something where I felt like every person was in the right position according to their skills, basically. So that was the biggest issue. I ended up doing a lot of the work myself. And this is not criticism to anyone, or also the people that were working there. It was just a crazy time and a crazy business because you had to deliver, but you didn't have the people to deliver. So the biggest impact that I was able to make was to change up the team, get more people in, different people in, and really have like rock stars in every position, because that's exactly what you need when you're experiencing hyper growth. You have no capacity whatsoever to pull anyone along who's not doing their own bit, and that was a game changer, basically. And then once that was in place, then a lot of things just got a lot easier. But like I said, in this business, it was very frustrating a lot of the times when the operations side wasn't able to deliver on the capacities, when we were able to really scale the business. So if there were no caps on any operations, we would have been able to grow like 20 times what we were actually able to do. But then there were other times when we were not doing our job, and then the capacities were just there, and people were just standing around. So I think those were the biggest challenges, and to kind of find that balance between operations and marketing, that was always the biggest thing. That was always the top priority, to find a better balance on that. But another challenge that I experienced is that, and I've seen this in multiple companies already, that even if you have professional marketers working, a lot of the times they disregard the sales and marketing funnel, which is a pure numbers game, right? If you can follow the marketing funnel and really get enough impressions, enough reach, then in the end you will make an X amount of business. And I also found that this wasn't followed when I started. Was quickly able to change that, and then you could immediately see the effect of it. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I like that, because that goes directly into how I see the world as well. So if we're getting enough reach, then that reach, as long as we're doing a good enough job presenting ourselves, is going to start translating into more interactions. Those more interactions will start to compound into new business. That's exactly just that's exactly how I see it.
The natural law of marketing, and I've just seen it, I would say now, in almost every business that I've started into, that at least tendencies to disregard this whole funnel process are there. And also agencies that are actually supposed to give companies the advice on how to use this properly disregard this. And this is where I get really frustrated, especially if you have experts, supposedly experts, advising you.
For sure, and it's not super complex either. So this is the thing. To build a marketing funnel is pretty easy, actually. It's very simple. Yeah, it's not rocket science. problem is with most marketers, it doesn't make them appear to be that clever when they present it. Like, I'm like, this is so simple that it's making me look silly almost how simple it is, right? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of marketers, no, this is too easy. You know, we want to appear more far like out here than that. I was like, no, just follow. This is your map. You know, this is how you get to the end, right? Like, this is, yeah. And so many marketers, as you said, just avoid it. Like, or they don't. First of all, they may avoid it, and they might avoid it because of a couple of reasons. First reason being that they've never done it before, so they don't really know how to do it, right? And second of all, they're a bit afraid of it because of the unknown, because of the first part, right?
I think the biggest issue is because lower funnel activities always give you better results and more immediate results. And this is the tendency that a lot of companies fall into, is that they're like, okay, you're doing awareness marketing that is not measurable for us. Because you can't directly link outdoor campaign, for example, to a sale. It's just not possible. And then in the end, you just cut that whole awareness part out, and then you're just focusing on your brand search keywords, and you're focusing on basically spending 80% of your budget on lower funnel activities, which then you're reaching the same people over and over again. And this is
true. This is true. I mean, even with those top of funnel activities you said there, it just sprung to mind about technology, because there's so many there's mixed marketing, mixed marketing modeling, and all of this type of stuff that claim to be able to offer a level of attribution which is way beyond anything you've ever seen before, because you're able to see what your offline stuff, how that's impacting your bottom of funnel. Honestly, that's all bullshit in my mind. It's like, okay, let's use common sense. This is how I do it. Use common sense, right? If you do a big billboard, as you just mentioned, in a busy area, and it doesn't have a bad representation of your brand, and it says what you do, that's going to stick in people's brains. So when they have the need, then they go and look for you, right? Now, whether that work, can I tie that back to a sale? No. But is it having an impact? I can guarantee you it's having an impact.
Yeah, there's been studies about this, and studies all show that it has a positive impact. But the problem is you can't say this sale came from that campaign, for example, right? And this is where a lot of companies, including all these tech companies that are trying to make it big, fall into that trap that they want to measure everything, and this is just not possible in marketing. And this is something that a lot of the CEOs don't want to hear either, right? Luckily at gurkerl, I had a very good CEO who was very on board with the strategy, and we were able to scale that way. But I guarantee you it wouldn't have worked if we didn't change up that strategy.
Well, there you go. So like, let's talk a little bit about tech then. So if you're coming in somewhere, because you work with it, you're now with your agency going to be working, I guess, with more startups, right?
Yeah.
What do you come in, like, what's your toolbox or your playbook when you come in and you take a look at what's happening? Where do you typically go? Like, okay, CRM, marketing automation.
Okay, so basically, I mostly specialize on generating new business, right? So I help with Facebook ads, I help with Google ads, but also with any kind of media that a company needs. But when it comes down to the other steps of the customer life cycle, then I tend to go to cheaper tools like MailChimp that also have free versions, just because I'm working with startups that don't want to spend a lot on tech. And they also don't have the need for it, because the basic, like for B2C brands, for example, and I mostly work with B2C brands, it's completely enough to just work with the free version of MailChimp at first. And then once you get a certain customer audience or customer group in your database, then you upgrade to the next level. Yeah. And it's not more than that, to be honest, right? It's pretty simple. And all the sophisticated tools that I've used in the past, I only really used for bigger companies. For example, for the hotel group that I was working for, or for GM, those kind of companies definitely need bigger tools and more sophisticated tools.
Sure. Got it. I mean, I think the message there is you don't need a sophisticated tool set in order to get things up and running and get them up and running well, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. It's perfect. Well, hey, look, so tell us a little bit about, before we finish up, like what are the next steps for you now? So you've got the agency, you've just left gurkerl, you've just got your award in your back pocket. So what's next?
So I'm going to concentrate on developing my agency further. I'm working with new clients at the moment, but I'm also working on my own projects. I am very interested in starting my own kind of projects to kind of like get my hands dirty myself. And currently I'm working on 2 projects on my own, also with some other founders together, in the real estate business, but also in the furniture business. And so again, a new industry for me, 2 new industries for me, but super exciting and super interesting to kind of develop that further. And in terms of clients, always open for anyone who's interested in getting some advice from somebody who's has first-hand experience in a startup. But yeah, working with fashion companies and working with fintech companies, also in the B2B area, and yeah, looking forward to scaling that business as well.
Perfect. Okay, well, look, John, I think we'll leave it at that. This has been really great, and what we'll do is we'll manage to get all of your contact details and everything in the description of this as well, so that we get people to find you there as well. But John, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Sure thing.
All right,
guys. You too. This has been another episode of This Is Your Captain Speaking. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.